Skywatch Media News for August the 14th, 2020. Over the past months and even years, there has been a flurry of big news events centered specifically around Earth sciences and the discoveries from space. And you would think that they would dominate the headlines. Unfortunately for us, many of them are pushed to the back burner by news conglomerates for reasons that may be conspicuous, but maybe not as clearly visible as we are led to believe. One of the bigger news stories that many of the leading tabloids have written about has to do with the ground activity that is gradually but consistently taking place within Yellowstone Park. For much of the first 2 decades of this century, seismologists from the University of Utah have been carefully and cautiously monitoring earthquake activity across the Yellowstone Basin, observing hydrothermal vents, and looking for indications of a ground shift or an uplift within the caldera caused by the movement of magma below the surface. Whenever there is an earthquake swarm taking place within Yellowstone's boundaries, and there has been quite a few of them over the last 20 years, it has a tendency to spark one's fears and emotions about this area and the dangers it poses, especially given the fact that Yellowstone is already overdue for another major event. We often hear in our news about the potential for a large eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano. However, we seldom focus on the real threat of large earthquakes in this area, even though the risk from seismic events is much larger than a volcanic eruption, because they occur much more frequently. Earthquake swarms in volcanically active areas are not always indicative of an imminent volcanic eruption. But what it does indicate is that areas like Yellowstone have hidden dangers that can catch individuals off guard, as they did for visitors to Yellowstone nearly 61 years ago. On the evening of August the 17th, 1959, at 11:37 p.m., park geologists were confronted with an earth-shattering event when a 7.3 earthquake rocked Yellowstone Park. The movement of the earth was so intense that witnesses claimed to have heard the grinding of plates. It was a deafening noise much louder than the rumblings of thunder. The earthquake caused massive damage to the timberland and devastated Hebgen Lake, Montana, located in Yellowstone's northwestern region. Witnesses recall that the ground was opening up, and their recollection was not exaggerated. The USGS referred to the earthquake as the worst on record for the state of Montana, dating all the way back to the year 1869. At the time of the 1959 earthquake, it was the second worst to have occurred in the 48 lower states. The event caused a massive avalanche of rock, soil, and trees, an estimated 28 to 33 million cubic meters of material, which descended down from the Madison River Canyon's south wall at nearly 100 miles per hour. It took less than 1 minute for the 85 million tons of rock to slam into the narrow canyon, blocking the river and creating a new lake that is now 5 miles long, 1/3 of a mile wide, and more than 170 feet deep. The earthquake caused 18 to 20 feet of offset on the surface, which can be seen today near the Red Canyon Faults. Summer homes situated along Hebgen Lake sustained shifted foundations, collapsed chimneys, and broken pipelines. Roads and highways also cracked and shifted, and reinforced bridges were severely damaged. Even more spectacular were the effects of the earthquake on the hydrothermal vents located within the park. As a result of the powerful seismic event, at least 289 springs in the geyser basins of the Firehole River erupted as geysers, 160 of which had no previous record of eruption. For the first few days following the earthquake, Old Faithful Geyser became erratic, with successive longer and shorter intervals between eruptions. Among historical records, the Yellowstone Earthquake of 1959, known as the Hebgen Lake Earthquake, is still to this day the largest and most powerful earthquake to take place in the U.S. Intermountain West. As we approach the 61st anniversary of this event, residents living in the area around Yellowstone and those living in the western states should be mindful that this region is earthquake country. Earthquakes occur on a regular basis here, including big ones that can actually change the topography of an area, as it did in 1959 with the formation of a new body of water called Earthquake Lake, a portion of West Yellowstone, Montana, where a forest once stood. We should expect earthquakes comparable in strength to the 1959 event to happen in our future with similar effects. The one important difference today is that there are so many more people visiting Yellowstone now than there was in the summer of 1959. This is the reason why it is so important to be aware of your surroundings. The better prepared you are, the better you will be when the unexpected moment arrives. This year has certainly been a year of great uncertainty and one of deep sorrow for many. Most everyone seems to be in agreement that 2020 has been the strangest and most bewildering year that our generation has ever seen or witnessed. What is even more disheartening is that it feels as if the troubling times are just getting started. Thanks for watching.